Destiny 2. Just an absolute juggernaut in both its longevity and popularity. Even right now, in what feels like trying times for the franchise, it commands such a respectable player count. The thing is, the whole situation right now, it just feels so weird, man. On the one hand, it's been this incredible journey, unlike many things in gaming, heading towards its endgame moment. On the other hand, it's riddled with fatigue, predictability, and lacking surprise. It's a game that I think is incredibly special. Its gunplay, its lore, its worlds, its moments, its raids, its loot, it's all there. And the fact that it still is after all this time is remarkable. Right now, I'm just not excited. Being completely honest, I look at the final shape and I think to myself, this is probably it for me. Destiny is often a state of one step forward and two steps back, and repeating that formula over time has taken its toll. But this franchise has given me some of my greatest ever moments playing video games, and the Guardians along the way that I've met I can now consider friends. It was a conversation with those friends that inspired me to create this video. What can this game do to excite me again? What can it do to make me feel optimistic about the future? Bungie say Destiny is at its best when it, quote, surprises and delights. How can it make me as a player feel like I have a future playing it after the final shape? I'm not going to sit here in this video and armchair develop. I know the Bungie devs, whether you want to accept it or not, care for this franchise and the health of the game. They care for its players, and I really do believe they're passionate and very talented. But the game has become so stagnant and there are so many problems. So let's dive in as to how Destiny can excite me again. So look, this video won't highlight every single problem with this game, just the ones that would create some excitement and energy for me. So if I miss something that you feel would contribute, let me know in the comments down below. Now, the first part. Every man and his dog has pointed this out, but it's pivotal, there's no other way of putting it. The Destiny content vault is a problem for sure. The fact that every new expansion means all seasonal story content, aside from exotic missions and some battleground, is KO'd from the previous year. Now, whether you've liked this year's content or not, can I just explain, right? Imagine the last thing that you finished in Destiny 2 was Witch Queen, and you're like, oh, I've got the itch, I want to play some Destiny. You boot up the final shape when it launches in June. Cool beans. All of a sudden, Savathun's just chilling there, and you want to know how she returned. Tough luck. Go watch Bive's videos. This is not an acceptable pattern. Granted that seasons are shifting to episodes, fair dues, we have no idea if these may stay or go in the future, but it creates a problem on two fronts. The first one is, how on earth is anyone ever meant to get into Destiny now? And I'm not even just talking about the finale with the final shape, I'm talking post final shape. The moments that the core player base have experienced with Zavala, Crow, Ikora cannot even be remotely experienced by new players. They can never truly form the same connection as a core player who has stuck with the game for the past 5 years can. So whilst the final shape may knock this light and dark in a saga out, this is still a massive problem for me. It also comes back to the lapsed players, right? We now have different levels of connections and engagements to these characters. Now look, this is video games, this happens a lot more than you probably think. Final Fantasy VII, for example, just bear with me. It's a completely different context, but just hang in there. You've got the people who played the original, you've got the people who played the original and 7 remake, you've got people who just played the remake, and you've got those that have played absolutely everything, and then you've got those that have played nothing, right? This happens a lot in games. Differentiating factor of this stuff I just mentioned is that all of that is playable if anyone wants to go and play it. So if anyone wants a deeper connection to the original Final Fantasy VII characters, they can absolutely have it. Regardless of how incredible Bife and other content creators are, what you get out of hearing and narrating moments is not the same as experiencing them for yourself. So what do you do? The content vault isn't there, despite what some may think, to piss us off. It's there because of the technical limitations and I'm sure a hell of a lot more. So it's not as simple as just bringing it out the content vault. For me, there's two ways to go about this. Number one, and I think this is necessary for Final Shape, is a big recap. Like, we seriously need, before the first moment of that expansion begins, a cutscene that is in depth to really catch people up. The biggest cutscene moments, the biggest narrative moments, just to enable lapsed players to feel that they can know enough to go ahead and play the Final Shape. The long-term solution, I feel like I need a clean slate. I'm not even talking just a Destiny 3. It can be, and probably the best scenario, but a moment that doesn't exactly shelve every Destiny character, but it brings life into new ones. It enables a new saga that feels like a true new beginning. Because I don't see any other way to really allow new people to come into Destiny and feel at home without this awful onboarding, this inability to experience the biggest of moments, and even if everything got put back into the game, how on earth do you even do that in terms of behind the scenes? Like, how do you guide them in the right direction with all the complex branches that span from that? Like, just think about it, like the UI, the quest clutter. For a new person coming on board, that would be the literal definition of hell. It's why I feel Destiny 3 is a long-term solution. It's not a good consumer practice to have us constantly paying for these seasons that we lose access to after a year. Destiny 2 is such a big game. I don't see how you can keep on expanding on it without taking more stuff away. And as painful as someone who's invested as much time into this game as I have, but even episodes, we don't know enough, sure, but they almost feel like repackaged seasons that are just honed into one plot line rather than the grander one. So for me to be really excited again, we need to bin off the fear of missing out and time-based concept of seasons and years as packages that act as these things as a blink and you miss it moment. I want to be able to take an extended break from these long-term live service games when you got a year as good as 2023 when it comes to video games, or time off when I'm away travelling. I, as the player, should never be punished for that. It's healthy for me as a player to prevent burnout and fatigue, but it's healthy for the long-term health of a game and its player base in particular. How many people now will not return because that they feel the time is gone? I know of people like this myself. There needs to be a new jumping on point that feels fresh. Almost like a Star Wars sequel, except make it good. Okay, as a Star Wars fan, it still hurts. Keep the cast around, sure, but not in a way that requires the 10 years of knowledge and experience to really feel the moments that they want you to. As for the way stories are told, I don't have much to say because this is the last season. If episodes have any chance of encapsulating me, it has to be different from speak to hologram, run activity, speak to hologram, watch two people talk. Alright, see you next week. Thing is, I think they know this. The question is, what do they do to change it? So that's seasons, fear of missing out, content vaulting. What about what we're actually doing in the game? I really do think that activities in Season of the Wish and Coil with roguelike elements have been a resounding success. The issue is, I don't feel arsed about the rewards I'm getting from it. Now look, Bungie right now are probably giving you the big I told you so moment about weapon sunsetting. For the long-term health of the game, sure. The wide loot pool now though has meant that I never really feel, as a fairly casual player, I need every role for every archetype or crafting for that matter. I think this is where the balance between the hardcore and the casuals creeps in, making activities difficult enough for the hardcore players to feel engaged, but accessible enough for the casuals to keep playing. They've made wise decisions. The legendary campaign, master versions of activities, decent design decisions, I really do feel that. This one is a solution I don't have. I think they're doing the right thing in seasons where some loot can only drop, some can be crafted, but it's still at that stage where I just don't feel like I need it. I can feel the pelters coming already, but one thing Suicide Squad did that was pretty cool was this idea of weapon synergies. And I feel like making weapon families in this game going forward could be a fairly nice idea. Now look, again, armchair development, I know that is a huge undertaking. But I genuinely don't know what they could do to excite me about the loot again. Even exotics now, they feel a little samey, because they either break the sandbox and get nerfed into the ground, or they're just kind of useless to begin with. My most used one is Quicksilver Storm, which is as basic as it gets. An assault rifle that shoots grenade pellets and then charges up to turn into a grenade launcher. I just feel to really make builds feel cool and different again, some kind of synergies would be nice. So, for example, in Suicide Squad, say I equip a Bane weapon and a Two-Face gear item. If I harvest an enemy in that game, I get a 100% chance of dropping a grenade ammo or a live grenade. Now, sure there's already like build crafting in this game, but like weapon families and incorporating that into new weapons could create further power creep issues, 100%. But it just does something a little different to make loot feel exciting to chase for me again. I'm going to also go a little bit back to the start. I mentioned new players, right? Part of the excitement of Destiny to me is when I convince friends to give it a shot and they love it. The onboarding of this game has to be reworked. Getting into the game has to be less convoluted. You may say, well, how does this make you feel excited about the future of Destiny as someone who's constantly playing it? But new players means new perspectives, new excitement and new feedback. Taking someone who's never played the game through a raid for the first time, sure, I may not get new gear, items or any meaningful progression, but it gets me excited in the same way that I'm sure a parent re-experiences Christmas for the first time with a child. Maybe over-exaggerating, but you get the point. I can't understate how important fresh experiences and perspectives are for long-term franchises. At the end of the day, playing with others is part of what makes Destiny so special. So being able to engage people into it, that is a way to get me back and excited so that I can bring more and more people and show them why this game can be so special at times. One of my biggest complaints with the game ever, and I really only thought about this after Lightfall, was honestly how disappointing the darkness was as an entity. We've not had a new enemy faction since Forsaken. Again, not an easy development undertaking. The excitement of what was in those pyramids was so exciting for me for the longest of times. Destiny at its core is about excitement and speculation. How did Savathûn get the light? Who is the witness? Is Cayde really alive again? From the birth of Destiny as a franchise, it was this grounded sci-fi experience, the exploration. What are we doing here? New factions and new enemies really add to that. Who are they? What do they want? Can they be allies? Of course, it also helps from a visual and gameplay perspective too. New challenges, new tactics. Like sure, Tormentors add a new challenge, but they can only be used to a degree without breaking missions or becoming so frequent that the threat is no longer threatening. One of the best things Destiny has done with its narrative in recent years is the branching of friendships with the people that were once the enemy. Savathûn is hands down the best character in Destiny. She's complex, but she's untrustworthy and you still need her. Destiny is at its best when you have those moments. A new race allows for that to happen. It creates new dynamics in this world, new lore, new perspectives, and then you think about how a new race can tie into the locations that you visit. These races have served their purpose and provided some great stories along the way, don't get me wrong. Again, it's not a short-term development ask, but the lack of variety for years now has really contributed to my own personal fatigue of the game. Going forward after the final shape, I really do feel like we need a new big bad, a new race that will just change up the dynamic of this universe or venture into a new one. Another thing, and look, this is quite minor, is the visual representation of the live element of this game. I think about when Seraph ended, Lightfall began, and all the ships in the sky, the view of the Traveller, or looking into the Traveller at the end of Lightfall when the Witness cut through it and travelled through the portal. But then this year, it's never felt like much has happened. And that's because not much changes visually in this world. You get snow at Christmas, flames for Iron Banner, but not much. Helldivers 2 right now has taken over gaming. And it's a completely different kettle of fish. But seeing the amount of Helldivers online, their ships in the orbit, how much of the planets have been liberated, it feels live. It feels like it's ever evolving, and in a year for Destiny where we're about to enter the final showdown with the Witness, the world and this universe has never felt like it's adapted and evolved around it. I always want to be involved in a live service game because I love the concept of this ever evolving story and world. I'm not asking for live events, but visual updates that make me feel like it is all these Guardians trying to protect the light, trying to save the universe and take out these big bads. You only ever really feel it when you're in the tower. There's a lot Destiny has got right. The latest season activities, Fireteam Finder is a revelation, Strand is exceptionally fun, the exotic experimentation that they often do, the legendary campaigns. This game is not a disaster, and look, any game that spans this many years is a miracle. Here was me hoping Suicide Squad would be a success, yet its peak concurrent is not even Destiny's lowest. This game was special, this game is special, this game can still be special. I'll be there no matter what for the final shape. The likely scenario is I'll check out one episode after it if the final shape is as good as we all hope it to be. The game right now just feels stagnant and frozen. I know they can't make everything. I love Gambit, but I've accepted it's done out here. I understand as a development team, there's only so much of a punch that they can pack. When I think about playing Destiny past the final shape, I cannot feel excited because we haven't seen anything that sounds exciting. And look, logically that makes a little bit of sense. They show too much, the final shape loses all elements of surprise and delighting that we wanted it to. I don't think Destiny 2 goes away. I don't think we get Destiny 3 for a long time. But if I am to continue playing, I need to be shown a reason to feel excited again beyond another 10 out of 10 collaboration with another one of my favourite IPs, beyond their first in class art direction. And man, I can't even be excited about the music anymore because they sacked the main composer. There's loads of stuff obviously outside of what I mentioned, but these are the foundations. Make Destiny feel the sense of exploration and the unknown all over again. Honestly, I know by now to never count Bungie out, especially when their back's against the wall. But recent years have also taught me, when it comes to Bungie, you can have the most talented staff, those that act as the Guardians, but it means absolutely nothing if your higher ups channel the greed and incompetence of Callus. If you enjoyed this video, hear me bang on about Destiny. I'm just trying to talk about what I'm passionate about. Destiny, sci-fi, comic books. If you want more of that, consider hitting the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments down below, what can Bungie do to make you feel excited about the game post final shape? Are you already excited or are you already out? Please try and keep it civil down there. If you enjoyed the vid, dropping a like really helps me out. Have a terrific day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Eyes up, Guardians.